All right, guys. So we are going to talk about customary and metric units of measure, and we're going to be converted, right? We want to convert those values. So when we go back from elementary school, we know this to be true. We know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, okay? And the question says, how can we find how many inches are in 4 feet? And it wants you to explain the process in words, which you'll do in just a second, but I want to refresh your memory. There's two ways we can do that. We can make a table, okay, just like this, right? I can think about what do I know? Well, I know feet and inches, right? So I know I have 1 foot gives me 12 inches, right? And I know that. You have a measurement chart that'll tell you that. 2 feet would be 24, 3 would be 36, and 4 would be 48, right? So that's one way, is that we can make a table. Another way is that we can do what we practiced yesterday, which is to make a proportion, okay? And so you go with what you know. Well, I know that 12 inches equals 1 foot, okay? And if I know that's the case, this would be feet, because feet would have to go on the bottom, because remember, the same units have to go together. So this would be inches. And so what we're trying to find is this. We don't know the inches. Well, remember, these are related through multiplication, right? So that means I can go from 1 to 4, right, between the two ratios. And I know that 1 times 4 is 4, which means up here, because it's equivalent through multiplication, I multiply by the same thing times 4, and 12 times 4 is 48. So I can use a proportion, or I can make a table. Sometimes when I'm just doing 4, right, it's not so hard to make the table. But what if I wanted to know 24 feet? How many inches would that be? You wouldn't want to make the table, right? You would want to make a proportion so that you could see the connection. Okay? Okay. So pause the video, and I want you to explain in words um, what you did here. What could we do? Make a table, write a proportion. Talk about this relationship, right? Because it's related through multiplication. Okay? All right. So next, if you'll look, today we're going to convert. That means to change, right? Within a measurement system. Remember, there's two measurement systems that we have. We have customary and we have metric. Okay? For this problem, we're going to look at customary. Okay? Um, okay. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Like a double recording came on. So we're converting within a measurement system. Okay? So we're going to look at this problem. Celia is traveling 464 miles away to visit her grandmother. How many yards is Celia traveling? So she's going miles. She's going miles, and we want to know yards. Okay? So we're going to use a ratio table to help us find out, build on what we know to help us find how many yards are in 464 miles. Okay? So what I know is that my first relationship, and this is what you're going to find on your measurement chart right here, that 1 mile is equal to 1,760 yards. Okay? Where do I find that? On your chart. And you should all have one of these in your folder. So that means, how do I get from here, right, to here? Because we want this to be what? Well, if this is 2 miles, right, how did I get from here to here? Well, I multiplied by 2, from 1 to 2, and then let's see if that works. Here, I can look at 1,760 times 2, right? And that's going to give me, there it is, 3,520. So I knew that this times 2 would be 2 miles. Another way that you can figure this out, right, is through division. Because if I can multiply one way, right, going this way, oops, if I can multiply going this way, then that means going the reverse, starting from the bigger number and going to the smaller number, I can divide, okay? So one way you can figure that out is by finding the unit rate, right? So I can take this number, 3,520, and divide it by this one. Ooh, that's a big one. And I would get 2, which would be your scale factor, okay? All right, so we found that this is 2. If we know that this is 3, how do we get from, oh, that's funny. How do I get from 1 to 3, right? We know we're going to multiply by 3. So if that's the case, then I'm going to go this way and multiply by 3 as well. So 1,760 yards times 3 is going to get me what? 0, that's 18, 22, 5,280 yards to go here. So then the question becomes, if I want to know miles, how do I get from 1 mile to 464 miles? Well, I just multiply by what? 464. That, my friends, is going to be a big problem that's going to require me to have some more space. So that means I have to take this number right here, and in order to find this equivalent ratio, right, I need to multiply by 1,700. No, just kidding. I have to multiply by 464. Okay, so I'm going to make myself a new page because that's hard for my brain. 1,760 times 464, right? And I'm going to get, okay, so when you multiply that out, look at what you get. 316,640. So when I come back over here, I got how many yards will she travel? Oops. 816,640 yards. That's a lot of yards. But really, it's this many miles. So we have an equivalent ratio, right? What is the process? The part of the piece that you need to do here, and you can pause the video. Process means what were the steps, right? What did you do to find the number of yards in 464 miles? Well, you can use words like relationship, right? You multiplied, right, by the scale factor. So there's some more vocabulary that you can use. Those are just some ideas, okay? So you can pause the video and fill in that information. And then we're going to look at one last problem, okay? We're going to try together. And this one, as you can see, is dealing with the metric system because we're talking about we're talking about centimeters and meters. Okay. So what are we going to do? So we are going to fill in the first row with what we know. So what do we know? Okay. So I know that in 1 meter, oh my goodness, 1 meter, I have 100 centimeters. Okay. So I can make my table. Notice centimeters are on top. So I would put 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. Okay. So how can we get from here? I want to get here, here to here, right? Okay, so a couple things can happen here. We can work on finding the relationship from this meters to centimeters, right? What's the relationship between 100 and 150? Or by dividing, right? Because I would need to think about this is 150. How do I get from 150 to 100? Well, I would divide, right? And you can do that by doing this. 150 divided by 100. There's 100 in there, right? And there's 50 left over. So I'm going to add the 0 with the decimal. Bring it down. How many 100s are in 500? Well, 5. That gives me my 0. So my scale factor becomes 1.5. Okay? So when you go over here, if I divide this way by 1.5, that means I would multiply 100 times 1.5, and I would get my answer. Okay? And so then I could do 1 times 1.5, which is going to be 1.5 meters, because it's the unit rate. Okay? When the unit rate, when you're talking about 1, the scale factor is actually going to be your actual equivalent. Now, something else that I can do is I can use the math reasoning skills here, right? What do I know about 100, and what do I know about 150? Well, if there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter, and here I have 150, think about what we did here. We did this on our tables before. 50 centimeters would be how much of a meter? Well, it's going to be half of a meter, right? So this would be 100 centimeters is 1 meter, 50 centimeters is half a meter, so that means 150 centimeters would be 1.5 meters. So there's 2 ways to do that. Find the scale factor by dividing, or use the math reasoning skills, okay? And that's one way that you can do that chart. How many meters did Jacob throw the football? Well, he threw it 1.5 meters. Okay? And that is how you work convergence. And this is, again, remember, within the metric system.